nursing is obviously dominated by women, but when you throw like a man or like a few men into the mix, like it just creates a peaceful balance. Like men just genuinely don't involve themselves in gossip. Men genuinely just come to work and are so helpful.
You've heard me speak of Outkast highly before, and I will always speak highly of Outkast because they are possibly the best hip-hop duo ever. On their first album, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music, their 15th track is a song called Hootie Hoo. And the lyric goes, about 2 weeks later, she called me with some BS, talking about her friend came late. And guess what I did? Click. Now, the next line is actually very apropos to the new workplace, because a lot of men are changing their behavior because in the post metoo era, a lot of guys have to be very careful about how they're moving. And so they're acting in a different way now.
No, it couldn't be me. Not me.
I want to baseline this video by going back 4 years to an MSNBC clip where they're talking about some of the unintended consequences of what happened after the Me Too era.
A side result, an unintended consequence of the Me Too movement has popped up. Male executives and managers, some are now saying they are afraid to work with and mentor female colleagues in the workplace. So we're trying to find out, is it too hard to see the difference between mentoring and harassment? Joining me now to discuss, Tiffany Defoe, founder and CEO of The Crew and author of Drop the Ball, and Shelley Zalas, CEO of The Female Quotient. Okay. Tiffany.
So they're already discussing the fact that the changes happen, right? We can acknowledge that. But what it's suggesting is that after the change, that there is a, how should I say, a lot of people are not happy with the adjustments that men are making in the workplace. And they're going to talk about it in this conversation.
I turn to you first. So men who are making this argument, well, suddenly now I could be accused of harassment. I can't mentor women anymore. And we first heard this pop up from Wall Street. Bloomberg had an article. I took issue with it because I can't find any evidence where there was ever any extraordinary mentoring on Wall Street. We've never had a female CEO of a bank. So is this just an excuse?
Okay, so they're going to get to the good part, but it's interesting she goes to Wall Street CEO bankers. But that aside, what's really interesting is that you can tell in the two women that are answering, you can see both sides of the coin, because you're going to see, I guess you could call it feminist, really. And this young lady, I mean, she has Gloria Steinem in the preface or forward of her book. So I imagine she is pretty proud of it. And you're going to see the other side of it when the other young lady or the other lady presents her response to the same question.
So here's the thing. I want to talk to all the men out there who have this concern. I want to say that I feel empathy. I understand. You're concerned that you're walking on eggshells. You feel vulnerable in the workplace. You're concerned that your words or your behavior might be misinterpreted as being something other than who you are.
We don't know what the new rules of the road are.
Welcome to the world of being a woman or a person of color or a member of the LGBT community or a person with disabilities in the workplace.
You heard the First Lady say that men are dealing with those kind of issues for the first time, and I guess men have to just get used to it or man up. Now, the second lady is going to have a little bit of a different opinion because she's going to acknowledge how tenuous the situation has gotten.
Listen, I think the biggest issue today is we're living in a climate of hypersensitivity, microsensitivity. Men are afraid to do and say the wrong thing in today's post-movement era, which is a big issue. And look at us, there's so few female leaders. Leaders are predominantly men, and we need leaders to be our mentors. And if leaders, which are predominantly men, are afraid to be with women alone, we have a big issue. We have a really big issue. 3.5 times more men say today that they will not go alone with a woman for dinner. 5 times more likely men not wanting to travel with women.
Now, the stats she's mentioning come from I think a few articles. This is a Harvard Business Review in 2018 saying survey results below, and they listed a couple of graphs that I'm going to show you here. Men in general will be more likely to exclude women from social interactions. You see, that's 44% of people polled. Men in general will be more reluctant to have one-on-one business meetings with women with no one others present. And so again, these are kind of new norms, and it shows that the society is struggling to try and re-normalize because it's very tenuous. And that actually speaks to something bigger than just workplace dynamics. This is a recent article from The Guardian. Men now avoid women at work, another sign we're being punished for Me Too. And this author is going to go through some stats. 21% of men say they are reluctant to hire women for a job that will require close interaction. 19% of men would be reluctant to hire an attractive woman. 27% of men avoid one-to-one meetings with female coworkers. Yep, that's right. A third of men are terrified to be alone in a room with a woman. It's worth noting, I think, the Harvard Business Review article previewing the 2019 results, our headline, you'll see them there. You can see the phrase a lot, and framing subtly implies that Me Too went too far, that a backlash is only natural. Yet it's another form of victim blaming, another way to quietly put women back in their place. That brings us to this tweet, and you can see that it has 2 million views in almost 5 days. I was talking to a female friend, and she was telling me how lonely it is for her to be working with only men in her team because they all maintain a respectful distance from her as they don't want to come off as creeps, not realizing it's completely isolating. She continues, I would think in this case your friend needs to break the ice, and she said she did that many times, they still continue their behavior. That's exactly my point. Whatever they are doing, it just makes us feel safer. I hate that there is so much pressure on them to do so, but well, if a lady is trying to get herself included and she's still getting ignored, then I feel like something has to be said. Now you can see that this is a minefield. It's a minefield because you're seeing men predictably made adjustments, and the adjustments now are causing discomfort, which is very interesting because it is a reflection of the fact that just in general, the male-female dynamic has broken down, and you can see it not just in the workplace, but just overall. And so how do you rebuild that dynamic? It's really interesting times, because you're going to see in some of these stories that the old dynamic is not there anymore. And you're going to see how men have adapted. It's adaptation. Extremists have been allowed to accuse men for just being friendly. And now, since women are believed more often than not, men are adapting.
No, it couldn't be me. Not me.
At work, I completely avoid women. I can tell they want to talk to me, but I don't even look at them. The workplace feels hostile. You see that? He said the workplace feels hostile. I used to talk to women all the time at work. I no longer feel comfortable. If they want to talk, they have to come to me.
No, it couldn't be me. Not me.
You reap what you sow, ladies. You make all men into villains, and you wonder why they don't want to interact with you. You've managed to slowly destroy civilization through your culture of man-hating and demonization. Now you wonder why you're all alone. I'm not sure I would go that far, but I saw the blue check mark. So either he has $15 or I don't know who he is, but he makes his point there. I'm male. I no longer associate with women in the workplace without another man present. Feminism teaches men that the destruction of our reputations, families, and job rests at the whim of any woman. I always have witnesses, always make recordings. Your life may depend on it.
No, it couldn't be me. Not me.
This is men adapting to a new norm, and this new norm says a lot about the state of relationships, the state of men or male-female, I guess I'm allowed to say that, male-female relationships in the current day era. Back to the nurse that was talking about how important it is to have male nurses.
The nursing profession needs more male nurses. There's just something about male nurses and working with a man in the nursing profession that as women we can't contribute. Like, it's just a whole different vibe. Like, nursing is obviously dominated by women, but when you throw like a man or like a few men into the mix, like, it just creates a peaceful balance. Like, Men just genuinely don't involve themselves in gossip.
Now listen to the words she's talking about here. Men don't involve themselves in gossip usually. And she said the word peaceful balance. Imagine that, a peaceful balance between men and women in 2023.
Men genuinely just come to work and are so helpful.
I want someone who's on my level or higher.
We've all heard someone on my level. I want someone that's on my level or higher. Well, what might be the best place to meet someone that's on your level? Through your friends? Possibly. Bar, restaurant? Probably not. Online? Probably not. At work or in school, college. But if these are the places where you're seeing the backlash from Me Too and guys are saying, no, I'm gonna back away, I'm gonna play it careful, those were the two of the top 4 most prominent ways that people met each other in 1990s. And now you see at work at 11% and at college at 9%, 20%, that's 1 in 5 people that you know are on your level because you're sitting in the same classroom with them. And those people are now pretty much off limits. And you're looking at online, which is probably not the worst. Probably not at all. Bar, restaurant is not great either. Through friends is probably the best method. And so you're seeing that the methods that used to be the best way of finding a mate that will be on your level are all approaching zero. In this country, I've been to, I think, about 2 or 3 weddings. And of course, I've been aware of people in my vicinity that have gotten married. And one of the things you notice is that I would say for college educated people, for certain, I would say over 50% of those people that they're marrying are either their coworkers or they're associated with the work organization in some kind of tributary fashion, or they went to college together, or their social circle is linked through that college group. And so you're seeing the spaces where you have the most Me Too activity are actually the networks by which a lot of people who have progressed up the ladder in terms of education will find the most quote unquote worthy mates. And if that ladder to finding a mate is slowly disintegrating, this is what you get. The Twitter thread continues. While I was an engineer working with all men back in the 80s, and it wasn't like that at all. One of the guys asked me out. We've been married 37 years. She found her husband in the workplace. My graduation class was only 3% female. Women wanted to enter the men's world. They did. Then they ruined it for themselves by redefining harassment as a man looking at you sideways or something. Now they destroyed work as the best place to find a mate. These are 2 stories that were immediately underneath the MSNBC article, and they speak to how tenuous things have gotten, and it's really interesting. I talked to a female coworker about work, and now she told everyone at work that I was trying to get in her pants. So after that, I never talked to her, not even to help her with work unless it's required. I just stayed away from her. Me ignoring her drove her insane. She tried to apologize, but I paid no attention. I didn't acknowledge her. I pretend she doesn't exist.
No, it couldn't be me. Not me.
I work at a hospital, and a nurse had a crush on a physical therapist and asked him out to dinner. He said he wasn't interested. A month later, he started dating a different employee, and the nurse got upset and accused him to upper management of touching her inappropriately in one of the patient's rooms. They immediately suspended him. Video footage cleared him of the charges and offered his job back. He said no thanks. It's very interesting because a lot of the unwritten rules have been erased, and now there aren't any rules. And so you have 2 things that are a fallout from this. You have men who are going to work saying, I'm going to put on a blindfold and I am not going to talk to anyone unnecessarily. And 2, you're having women who are looking around saying, I can't find anyone on my level. And this is where culture says, we're going to facilitate the people who are coming to work that are responsible getting together and being the building block of our society so that those families have 2 responsible adults that are creating families. And cultures find ways to facilitate the outcomes that they need. And when you don't have a baseline underlying culture and you've muddied the rules, it just makes for a society of men that are being careful not to do anything wrong, and frustrated women. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.